Sorry I had to do this again. One was actually waiting. Fair enough. Thank you for being here. Maybe you'll find this. Still, I want to talk about gender and spirituality because I think gender is a huge fucking topic, especially when we're moving from a patriarchy into a matriarchy, which does not exactly mean what you think it does. Probably. Let's see if I can get the ring light out of the way. All right. Fair enough. Now, this wasn't exactly the start I was hoping for. I'm sorry that I had to redo it. Um, Fair enough. You know, people in spirituality are always talking about the divine feminine. It's a big, big topic, the divine feminine. And it seems to be totally fucking okay if you're talking about the divine feminine. The divine masculine, however, is a different thing or is something that is not so much talked about. So, what is the divine masculine, right? First of all, we have to say masculine and feminine are not male and female, right? Masculine and feminine are different terms, or at least they are used for different concepts. I mean, it's coming from Latin, I believe, right? Masculinum, femininum, and so it basically means the same thing as male, female. But it has been used in a different way to underline a more abstract, metaphysical concept. And, well, we use the term because it is used in the spiritual community and all that stuff. Like, so just stick to it. As long as people understand the concept that it's not male and female, we can talk about this in that kind of way. Because masculine and feminine, I mean, they're basically, when you're talking about it in a spiritual context, they basically mean the duality of the universe, right? It's talking about yin and yang, Shiva and Shakti, and that that is basically just, or the plus and the minus, the one and the zero, which is not valuative at all. It is, well, not even exactly descriptive, so to speak. It is the core principles of like giver and receiver, right? Which is to be seen in the way gender is playing out in manifestation, right? So duality is playing out in manifestation as genders, as sexes. You know, gender and sex also different things, right? Gender is more abstract, right? So gender is playing out in society, or no, in manifestation in humans, for that matter, as sexes. But any individual is more than just one energy, right? It's layers and layers and layers of masculine and feminine energies balancing out within this human, right? And basically, in different situations, different traits of you will show that have a different polarity to them, you know? So it's like in some situations you're more progressive, in some situations you're more degressive, receptive, passive, active, passive, compression, decompression, you know, all the word pairs we have, you know, up until odd and even numbers. It's all duality, you know, and it speaks about a polarity. Definitely, it does. And that polarity is apparent in human beings, in sexes. So we cannot get around this, right? But yeah, of course, there are deviations from the norm. It makes sense, you know, because nature is like in all its variety a beautiful, beautiful chaos. Or, well, not like, I'm not being valuative here. Like, really, it is, everything is natural from a certain point, you know. So the term nature is a little redundant in a sense, right? Because what do we see as nature when we're talking about whether it's normal or natural? Normal or natural, again, very different concepts, right? Because norms are something man-made and natural is something God-made, basically, right? And then again, if anything that God made is nature, the term becomes redundant because then everything because God made everything, whatever, is natural, right? But the term natural becomes different connotation when we use it as an adjective, right? Because, like, otherwise the term would be redundant. But if we're talking about this is not natural, whatever, it's like, yeah, depends, right? It's not normal per se. And even if you think like of normal, even if you take normal or the norm as not a man-made term but something that is playing out, where you're like, okay, these are strong tendencies, this is the norm, right? There's the strong tendency that there is men and women, right? And that is a display of the core principles of the universe, which are giving and receiving, right? Fire and water, so to speak. That's what I love about the tarot. It's all explained through duality that is changing polarity and stacking layers and layers on top of each other, right? So, we can even get into that. But I want to come back to the normal versus natural argument, because normal is something that is according to the tendencies that show themselves, right? Natural means to the order that we see in nature, right? And what we see in nature is all kinds of variations from and deviations from that norm, right? So there is like a structure to it that is all coming from ones and zeros, from plus and minus, from Shiva Shakti, Yin Yang. But what we see playing out in nature is very much all varieties of how these ones and zeros can be shifted. I mean, look at computing. And I believe like computing even goes back to a book, an ancient, I believe, Chinese book or something, talking about the yin and yang, whatever. But an ancient book talking about spiritual duality, polarity, right? And someone be like, oh, we can build a computer with that. So they did, right? But that again means like, look at a computer program. It's all basically on and off, ones and zeros. And they're so complex that someone like put a language on top of a language on top of a language, but in the end it's binary, right? So what does that mean for the gender debate? I mean, like, it's a very fucking interesting topic for me, I find, because of course there are those tendencies in nature, right? But why are we so afraid of deviations of those tendencies? Like, now talking to like the more conservative crowd is like, what are you afraid of? If the principle of men and women is so rudimentary, so fundamental to human existence, why are you afraid of this being threatened? If it is actually so fundamental to the human experience, then it won't go away anyway, you know? So why the fuck are you afraid, you know? As a matter of fact, the fear of deviations of the norm that we see in nature, the fear of those is actually what is driving everything into the extreme, right? Extreme fear, then extreme activism, or for lack of a better word, opposition, you know, extreme opposition. And that is the problem, the extremism around this, right? Why can't we just accept that everything is fuzzy logic, right? So there is a tendency to it, but what we actually see playing out is the core principle of masculine and feminine in all its variations, right? Then, like, yeah, I identify as a man, for example, but I'm a very feminine man. In most cases, actually, sensitive, intuitive, you know, not exactly the super alpha. Maybe in the matriarchy, I'll be a new alpha, you know, like the the smart skinny kind of version, whatever, right? I do believe in that, but that's not what it's about. I mean, like, I am many layers, and I can behave progressive and be receptive in different situations. Now, you can't be both at the same time, but you kind of always are. See what I mean? It's like always one side of you is going to show, right? So if you stack layers and layers on top of each other, at one point when like the or at some point when the like genitals are built, or like the core structure of your being is determined, that core structure has like a clear tendency. It's like, are you a man or a woman? That doesn't mean that you're only masculine or only feminine. Fuck not. It's just like some parts of this infinite stacking of layers of masculine and feminine polarity switching, right? It's going to show in different situations, different aspects of life. And that's how all these beautiful variations in nature come to be, right? It's all ones and zeros that play out in a magnificent variety. So there's always going to be like these core tendencies, what we would call the norm, right? And if they're so fundamental, then they won't go away. So why are you afraid of deviations of that norm? But all the deviations of that norm, of course, are natural. That's how nature is playing out. It's all fuzzy logic, you know? So it's beautiful, right? It is beautiful. But on the other hand, if you're then fighting for the deviations, don't forget that there is something that has to be acknowledged that is a core structure of it all. So why can't we just like celebrate diversity in any area, you know? That would be amazing. Do we have yes. Do we have the chat on just in case something one like if you want to step in, just say something, right? It's like because it's a sensitive topic. I know that, and that's why I chose it. Because spiritual people are always talking about the divine feminine, but what does that mean? What does it mean if the divine feminine is being empowered right now in our society? Not even just in our society, like in our solar system, for that matter, and probably in our entire fucking galaxy. It's like the divine feminine energy is rising. Now, what does that mean? It means that our idea of what a man needs to be also changes, right? And a man needs to be sensitive, but that doesn't take away of the idea of what masculinity within a man does represent if it's predominant, right? And I go so far to say that in same-sex relationships or in any kind of relationships where like the sexes are diverse, you will have roles, and the roles won't fit the norm probably, but in different situations, the one or the other partner or the other partner, if we want to talk about polygamy, right? Someone is going to be the active part and someone is going to be the observant and receptive part of it, right? And it's going to switch from situation to situation, right? And like I've lived with a woman, and it was heart opening. But that doesn't mean that I wasn't a sensitive being before. I wasn't all like alpha. Like I never been. And that's cool. But there is something, of course, within me that wants to show force, have an impact, be valued as a force to be reckoned with. And that's a very masculine concept. Just like there is a part of me that just, wants to nurture. Like I'm a Cancer sign, so of course I want to nurture, right? I want to provide a home. I want to, and that shows in the way I want to be a protector and provider, right? So it's close, and in different situations, different things will show. There's always going to be roles like that, and I say those roles are, well, they're linked, of course, to the sexes somehow, right? Because of course, if your outer appearance shows that one or the other energies of like masculine and feminine is predominant, right, then most likely your entire character behavior will be built kind of around that dominance of this energy, right? Um, but still, there's unlimited variations of that. That's that's so amazing. So how do we see that playing out? Roles in a relationship, same as the roles in society, right? It's like there is this core quality of the masculine and the feminine, and it's playing out in different ways, right? So the divine masculine sees, like, let's say divine means implies wisdom, right? So if divine implies wisdom, then the divine masculine, the balanced masculine, knows that without someone to impress, there's no way to make an impact, right? The giver needs a receiver, right? Or, when you see it in the sexes as a giver and a receiver, um, and then on the other hand, same, right? The other side has to realize if there's no one to nurture, right, and that we feel protected by or whatever, then how can we live up to our inner desire to, yeah, live, experience. And that is playing out in so many ways. But then you have those roles in society when we're obviously going from from a patriarchy into a matriarchy, which does not mean politically. Like, matriarchy and patriarchy are terms that are used in a political context, but matriarchy and patriarchy are not political terms. They describe something very much more profound than mere politics. It's the predominance of one or the other energy within the entire system. Think about that. It not only determines what roles we prefer in relationships and whatnot, it determines how we build buildings, how we create art, how we talk to each other, how we value receptive and observing traits, and how we value progressive, active, and sometimes destructive traits, And that is the thing, right? So we're moving from a patriarchy where the masculine principle was very dominant and still is, right? Well, sort of. Um, where the masculine principle was very dominant into a matriarchy where the feminine principle is very dominant. What does that mean? Well, it shows that in architecture is getting smoother, more ergonomic, right? Things are getting softer. Men are getting softer, and I don't mean like the backlash when suddenly you are like when things change, and you always have a backlash of conservatives that want to conserve what is there, but change will always occur. It's always going forward. So we are moving from something that was predominantly based on impact, aggression, progressivity, but also innovation, which is also progressive, into something that is very receptive, more focused on the experience, calmer, softer. And our goal must be to integrate the two, right? And not choose one over the other. And that's like a stupid fucking thing to say, like, we have to have those roles or we have to abandon those roles. Those are not the options, As a matter of fact, trying to abandon the roles is a very masculine principle, right? So the feminism that is actually harmful is, in essence, a masculine way of going about this, right? Is destroy what destroys you. That is Mars energy, right? That is very masculine energy to just like, bash their fucking faces in and like don't take yes for an answer and no for an answer. Don't take any answer at all. It's like, no, that's not how we have a conversation. And that's not how we integrate and those energies and bring it into balance, because that's what life is all about, right? Balance. But that means that essentially nothing ever is in balance, right? And it also doesn't mean that the like like they say God is androgynous, which is sort of true. I mean, it's both, right? The world is both. Now, are we actually merging into a species where there's no gender at all? Like, imagine in like a million years, whatever. Do you think we would merge into a species where there's no genders per se, because we so integrated the masculine energy into the feminine energy that we are kind of, you know, birthing new beings without contact to another, right? It's like, that sounds very fucking abstract. It is possible. Let's talk about it, you know? But I don't think that in a, in, even in a distant future, that those core principles will go away. They will always be there and gonna play out, right? But then again, every mixture of those principles is still its nature. It's very freaking beautiful, right? So this matriarchy, patriarchy thing is like, it's absurd to me. It's like the way we are going about this is so absurd to me, and I'm glad to see. Um, like, I'm a fan of Jordan Peterson, for example, just because he's very fucking eloquent, and if you listen closely, it's always his following that like fucks with the message. It's always like the people that don't get it, that he's actually relativizing everything, right? And empowering both sides, as a matter of fact. And that's what we need to do, right? Empower both sides of the debate. That means like see the argument of the other. And like, I'm an artist, you know, and an intuitive, and I'm all for the new age. So it's tough for me to say conservatives have a point, you know. But it's getting easier for me to say that conservatives have a point. The more conservative the liberals are. So now we're talking in politic terms, but I actually didn't want to go into that too much. But it's so fucking ridiculous. To me, it's really fucking ridiculous when it, like, when you see it playing out, and you see, well, it's the same all the time. It's the same in society. It's like people doing the wrong things for the right reasons and the right things for the wrong reasons. You can see it every fucking where. It's like, you know, we want a more equal and yeah. What is the word I'm looking for here? Um, Honorable society, right? So let's dictate language. Like, fuck no. You don't dictate language. You don't dictate opinion. You don't dictate anything, right? That's just not the way to go about it. Never is. It doesn't matter what your objective is, right? So you don't ever dictate anything. You have to talk about it and see the other side, right? And when it comes down to analyzing something as big as gender, which is the duality of the universe playing out in society and existence, right? Then we have to assume that every party involved has a truth, is like, bears a like very true impulse, you know? So even if we fucking hate their opinion, it's coming from somewhere. And if you know humans as well as I do, they probably use the wrong argument. Always. Kind of. It's like, yeah, you got a point, but not for the reasons you think you do, right? It's like, what will our kids think? Like, have you like have you looked at your kids? Have you talked to your kids? Kids have an amazing way of bringing clarity into this world, right? And This isn't a whole, like, education is a whole nother debate, but think about this. It's like the parents always want to tell their kids how the world works, which they struggle to figure out themselves, and actually they're kind of fucking up all the time. So the moment we listen to the kids, we can see what, like, pure, unconditioned truth is about, right? Because they're like, yeah, they're pure and innocent, whatever, and they don't have a problem if, like, if someone looks different, they're like, they're not scared, they're interested. That is the beauty about children. Like, they're not scared as long as you, like, as long as you don't show aggression. Children are not scared of anything, especially not of the unknown. They're curious about everything that they never seen before, right? And yeah, well, like, even sometimes they're like, it's very much different than what they know, but they're just like not as afraid as someone that is holding on to a structure because it somehow they built their life around it. And beware, like, oh God, how dare you attack that structure, because that would mean that I built my life on something that is essentially wrong. Why why do you think it, like, why does it threaten you? It's like, it's fucking amazing. It fucking amazes me how people can be so fearful of what, of change. I mean, it is natural. Now I'm using, am I using it correctly? Yeah, it's natural. It's fucking natural to be scared of change, and even scared of differences, but and you know, something that is out of the ordinary. Oh, ordinary, beautiful word. I didn't use it once now. But we shouldn't. I mean, our job is, as a human being, to use our number one function, which is our intelligence and mind, the thing that differs for us, like that differentiates us from other beings, is that we are so powerful with our mind that we're able to drive ourselves crazy. Now, how about we stop driving ourselves crazy and start using this mind to integrate all the energies and everything that is present, right? If we're asking the question about everything, we have to take everything into account, right? So everything that we see playing out has a profound truth to it. There is a norm, there is tendencies. You just have to acknowledge that. But there are quite a large, like, there is, or there are deviations to those tendencies, and you have to, address that too and see that this again is masculine, feminine playing out. And that's maybe something I can close with. The fact that there is a norm, a strict rule on this is a man, this is a woman, is a very masculine concept. It's structure and control, right? It's very clean cut, straight. So the fact that there is a norm is a masculine concept. And the fact that everything is fuzzy logic and there's unlimited variations of everything, that's the feminine concept, right? So this is how it is playing out. It's fucking amazing. If you realize that everything is coming from those two core concepts of a progressive and a receptive, of an active and a passive, of a giver and a receiver, you see it playing out everywhere, right? You see where it's coming from, what the core energy of something is. And then you see how it interrelates. For example, in the tarot, I know I'm like over half an hour almost, but in the tarot, the duality is playing out in many levels. So, duality, fire and water. One step further in manifestation, we have the mind that is essentially masculine. Wait a second. Fire is a masculine, it's a progressive energy, right? And water stands for the feminine, the receptive, soft, nurturing. right? And the concept of nurturing is already incorporating a masculine energy in a sense because you're the giver again. You're giving back. You know. Anyway, but you have the masculine in the fire, the feminine in the water. Then it's moving into reality and it flips, and you have the masculine in the air and the mind, right? So the mind is something that is receptive, but using what it gets in a very progressive manner. The mind is asking questions. The mind is not the mere observer. The mind is the one figuring it out, and that's a very masculine concept. And then the hard facts, the materialistic things in the earth energy are again a feminine concept. So you have something that is hard and tangible, which is essentially a masculine concept, but this is being receptive at its core, which is a feminine concept. And you have something that is not tangible and largely relying on input that it then can analyze with like the mind, which is a very feminine approach, or like a feminine base and a masculine approach, right? And then you have the earth is a feminine base, is a earth is a masculine base, very hard, and a feminine approach, soaking up the water, like letting it grow, all that stuff. So that is beautiful how that is playing out. And then I am working right now on a tarot deck concept that is very much, well, it's trying to refine the Rider Waite, and it's very much about how this duality is playing out in different levels, right? And how some like a planet and a character from like a zodiac sign coming together, and whether they're like dignified or ill dignified, like is it a plus plus or is it a plus minus, and that's going to show whether it's balanced or whether it's on overdrive or whether it's like overly receptive. So yeah, I want to say weak, basically, right? Or susceptible, right? Because if you're too receptive, you're susceptible. If you're too aggressive, you're destructive, right? So somehow we have to find that balance, and there's nuances all around. So I've been rambling on about this very fucking complex topic, and I don't know if I really got it right. Let me know in the comments what you think about it, if there's something that I missed, and if you agree or whatnot, right? I mean, my core stance is it is what it is, and it ain't what it ain't, but um, well, it is a bit of everything. And that's probably the point. That's what I should close with, really, is that the fact that there is norms and variations from the norms are already the masculine and the feminine playing out, because the masculine progressive norms show deviations that water down those norms and water down and into fuzzy logic, which is a feminine concept. So the entire debate is already based on the duality, and like everything is based on duality. Of course, it shows in the debate, but if you view it like that, it's like it's just amazing, you know. They're fighting for a woman like a man would, right? And you're fighting for men like a woman would. It's interesting. Maybe that's already bringing this in balance. However, I see in the debate there's a lot going on, and there's a lot of already like parties that have opposition to both sides, right? So some like real interesting creators on the web. There's like really giving good impulses, and that show like both sides, right? One thing though, if it's extreme and it's dictating opinion, it's always going too far. It's always going too far. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. If you force it onto people, you're a fascist. It really doesn't matter what your opinion is. Because fascism is talking about the way you enforce your opinion, enforce your stance, right? So think about that when you're judging people. Maybe don't judge people at all. Okay, that's it for me. Let me know in the comments whether you kind of liked it or not. I know it's a very like sensitive topic, and I've been like skipping in my mind a lot, but whatever. Hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching the review, or like the re-upload and whatever, and let me know in the comments. Check out the tarot content. Reading is going to be up soon. Check out daywalkermanasbali.com, which is still my tarot site, but it's going to change then to the brand site, but one step at a time. And yeah, check out the TikTok and Instagram channel. Tarot content is going up. I'm working on a crowdfunder campaign for the tarot deck that I was describing. We're going to go into that a little more, talking about numerology. Hopefully, with my tarot master. Let's see if he has time, and because I saw that beautiful button. I'm talking a lot, huh? Yeah, perfect. It's done for talking. I saw that beautiful button when I was going live that I can now go live together. Yes, I'm one of the lucky creators that can use this feature. I don't know if they rolled it out globally already, like, or if they're still like step by step taking it to the creators. But I can go live together, and I will. I will. This is going to be interesting because it gives me, especially sitting here in Bali, so much opportunity to, you know, have a real conversation with other people, especially about things like this. Because those conversations, I mean, I love it. I just love talking about that shit. I had a conversation with a pastor, like a friend of mine that is a preacher, and um, about the Bible and the numerology in the Bible, and we just wanted to say goodbye, and then we stood there for an hour, and I love that. I want to bring that here. So if you enjoy hearing me rambling on, I know it had a different vibe today a little because it's a topic that have a lot of thoughts about, and you need to pick the words wisely. But if you enjoy hearing me talk and talking about the stuff like that, going like deep into the philosophical analysis of it, very abstractly, then yeah, drop a comment, like, and subscribe if you didn't already. And okay, I'm gonna stop talking now. Thank you guys so much. I love you.